Okay, sorry.
No worries.
Getting used to this new format here.
Yes, we all are. The one advantage that has been nice, at least from my navigating with it, is that when you go to the archive meetings and past meetings, it also brings up the YouTube feed as well, so you can kind of like watch. You can follow along while watching, if that's your prerogative. But yeah, I will continue to kind of keep those notes in those emails when I send out the agenda, just to make sure. And then, I always have the PDF attachments as well. So at any time, please let me know, and I'm happy to kind of send them as well, just because this new navigation process can be a little tricky.
Okay.
But it is good for many committees and commissions are kind of feeling it as well. It is good for archiving. Definitely the new digital format. Got it.
All right. Well, hopefully we get comfortable here and I get my tabs organized and we can kick things off.
Yes. Whenever you're ready, Chair.
Okay, great. Then it is Monday, October 11th. This is the Albany Arts Committee meeting. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. For those of you that don't know, we are located in Weechin, which I think it's Weechin, part of Oakland and the unceded territories of the Chochenyo and Ramaytush Ohlone peoples. And we should acknowledge that land and the peoples that are still here among us today. Moving forward, we're going to take roll. And if staff would like to take over on roll.
All right, roll call. Chair Gatch.
Here.
Member Abrams.
Here.
Member Black.
Here.
Member Bregman.
Here.
Member Goodman. Member Samatsky. And Member Raxel.
Okay, so we just have quorum today, which is great. We can move forward and get some stuff done. And hopefully our comrades will join in or catch up or be back soon. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. This is from the September 13th meeting. And if we can go ahead, and are there any questions from any of our members about minutes? Then let's just, staff can go ahead and take a vote on the minutes.
Chair Gatch.
Yes.
Member Abrams.
Yes.
Member Black.
Yes.
And Member Bregman.
Yes.
Great. Thanks, Keenan. All right. Our next item on the agenda is public comment. And this is an agenda item where anyone desiring to address the Albany Arts Committee on an item that is not on the agenda, this is an opportunity to do so. Speaker time is limited to 3 minutes. And the Brown Act does limit the committee's ability to take and or discuss items that are not on the agenda, but we welcome any comments. So do we have any public comment at this time?
We do have a couple in attendance. I'm just going to give them a second if they want to raise their hand. I do not see anybody.
Okay. Then we're going to move forward to agenda item number 4, which is announcements. And this is announcements from any staff or committee members with any reports or updates of previous agenda items.
I have an announcement.
Great.
On October 17th, which is this coming Sunday, we are having a meet the artist afternoon. So if you didn't make the opening, or if you did make the opening and still want to come, she and I will be there October 17th from 3 to 5 o'clock in the gallery. We normally don't have that kind of thing, but since it was a first run after the long closure and it was a Labor Day weekend or Memorial Day weekend, whatever it was, when she opened, we thought we'd have a second one this time. So it will be this Sunday from 3 to 5.
Great, thank you.
Certainly.
Any other announcements? No, any staff announcements?
Yeah, I have a couple. Thank you, Chair. We had a question from a committee member earlier today via email just about communication between the committee members. Just a quick overview of the Brown Act while we're all here is that we can't talk about agendized items in a forum that could potentially be a quorum outside of our gathering time of these arts committee meetings. So I know it can be tough and it can be difficult and wishy-washy sometimes. So like I always say, please, you can always contact me and ask, the appropriate way to communicate. And if when in doubt, you can always send it to me and I can BCC everybody as well. And then if any comments come through, I can disseminate those back to the artist, back to the committee member as well. So here to help out. And yes, it can get difficult, especially as hopefully someday we kind of move out of the more long distance communication and back in person. Just know that if there is an opportunity where there could be a quorum of arts committee members at a particular event or something like that, we don't want arts committee members to not attend events, but rather not talk about agendized items. And again, just really quickly, that's just for protection of everybody, just so that, conversations that could be seen candid in an outside forum do not affect people's voting decisions in this arts committee forum. The other one is the sculpture loan program item. It was asked by the subcommittee to be on the agenda tonight, but we do have some other kind of hard-hitting ones and we don't have too much of an update. However, I would like to say that the Recreation Department does understand that there is a logjam happening right now with the engineering, designing, and placement of those concrete pads is why we have been slowed down in this. And management has come up with some really good ideas to kind of bring this into a combined effort with more engineering projects and more design projects within the department. So we will have an update on the next steps for this and who we are going to bring in to do this engineering and to lay the concrete for this. It is certainly not our intention to delay this any more than it's already been delayed. But the Public Works and Engineering Department have a really good idea and a really good plan to move this forward soon. So as soon as I have more than just that type of update, we can bring it back to the committee for discussion. I really appreciate the subcommittee following up with me and continuing to press us, and that's a really important thing to do. And at this time, I don't have another update other than that. Okay, and those are the only announcements that I have.
Member Abrams, you had your hand up.
I would just love for whoever is responsible for pouring the concrete to be more specific than that. It's just really frustrating from this perspective that this project has gone so long, yet it seems to be way down on the priority list. And it just feels like that we're just spinning our wheels here. And so that, so I just want to be on record saying, at this point, this is my 9th meeting. We've had, two things have, two forward moving things have been completed, one an art show and the other the poetry, Peter's poetry on Solano thing. And neither of those need the help of the city. And so I just want the city to understand that, we volunteer our time for this. And at this point this year, upwards of 30 hours of our time just in these meetings to get nothing done, which is to me horrible for me. I can't imagine, ever spending this many hours not getting something done. So I understand, shorthanded, I understand all sorts of things, but the responsibility of this committee is, the city collects money to be used on public arts programs. And if it takes us over 3 years to place 2 sculptures on the parkway, I don't feel like we're in good faith doing what we're supposed to be doing. And so I just need to know, what can I do, since I'm new to this, to working with city governments. I have never done this before. What can I do to help have things happen, right? Can I make phone calls? Can I talk directly to the departments? What can I do understanding all the things that I know about city government, change in staffing, shortage of staffing, and all those things doing with COVID, but it's just incredibly frustrating at this point.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you both. And thank you, Member Black and the subcommittee. It is not on the agenda, so I do request that we do not enter into a discussion about it. However, it will be on the agenda next time, and we will have tangible things to talk about.
Okay, but I had asked at the last meeting that it be on the agenda, and that's also part of my grumpiness at this moment, is that I wanted this to be on the agenda so that it wouldn't be forgotten about. And to keep pushing it off another month, another month, another month. It has been, how many years ago since this project was started?
3 years ago.
3 years ago. And that's just, at some point we have to just say, we just need this done. I feel for the artists who have been holding on to their work this long, who have been, waiting for us to do something, and all of that.
I have talked to both artists this week, last week, actually. Both of them called me. They are very concerned that nothing is happening. And we did say we were going to be moving along when I talked to them at the beginning of the summer. It makes me feel like we're not getting anywhere, and it makes us look very stupid.
Thank you. And we will address it. It was not, again, we can't have a discussion about this. I'm sorry. There's the update is the information that we have, and I want to give the Arts Committee next steps, and it will be on the agenda next month when we have a next steps to provide for you.
All right, we're gonna move on, if there's no other announcements, to presentations. Do we have any presentations for tonight?
No presentations, Chair.
The next item is agenda item number 6, which is discussion of possible actions and matters related to the following items. I'm going to go ahead and read through them, and then we'll back up and we'll start with the first one. Item 6.1 or 6.1 is the Poet Laureate. Item 6.2 is Economic Development Subcommittee. Item 6.3 is the Community Center Art Gallery. And item 6.4 is the Albany Creative Justice Arts Project. For item 6.1 on the agenda, it says Member Goodman will update the committee, but Member Goodman is not here. Is there anyone that is updating the committee on his behalf?
I haven't heard from him other than that he was going to be at this meeting to make the update. One thing that we can do, and it's well within your power, Chair, is to make a quick motion and move that agenda item lower down on the item, and maybe he will show up. He might be delayed because of a reason. I can give a quick update on it as well, but I think for sake of it being Peter's item that we do move it down, and hopefully he can update us.
Okay. I move to move the agenda item to the end of agenda item number 6. Is there a second? Thank you, Member Black. And Keenan, can you take a vote, please?
Chair Gatch,
Yes.
Member Abrams,
Yes.
Member Black,
Yes.
Member Brigman.
Member Bergman, you need to unmute.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so that passes. We'll move that to the last. That brings us to item 6.2, which is Economic Development Subcommittee. Do we have someone who is leading that discussion?
It will be staff, and this is just a heads up. And again, it's going to be tough without the full accoutrement of people here. But the Economic Development Commission has on their work plan, as well as on our work plan, to form a subcommittee between the two groups, the two committees. That subcommittee would be an agendized public meeting subcommittee. So we want to start having these conversations about if anybody would like to volunteer for that and provide insight from the Arts Committee side. In the past, the idea of the subcommittees combined would be to focus on developing art in commercial areas. So that does kind of fit along with some of the other art projects that are going on and have been tabled for right now. So there is the idea of, maybe somebody who is on one of the subcommittees that is focused on one of those other art projects to kind of jump into this and kind of dovetail those ideas. And then the other thing to know is that the Economic Development Committee, they haven't selected their side either yet. So we do have some time, but I do want to put it on people's radars because as we move through these agenda items and as we move through these projects, hopefully, and start working on them, that there could be an opportunity to sit on a few different subcommittees. And I know everybody's busy and the holidays are coming up as well. But I think that we should continue to have these on the agenda and people to think about how we could work together with the Economic Development Subcommittee, with the Economic Development Commission. And if anybody would like to sit on the Economic Development Subcommittee, I think that that would be beneficial as well.
I would like to sit on that subcommittee.
And Liam, do you remember, or did you have a chance to look over any notes to see in past meetings when we approved the work plan, we had discussed people's involvement in different elements that were on the work plan. Do you remember if anyone else had already expressed interest in that?
Yeah, Peter had expressed, Member Goodman had expressed helping out, at least in the start of it, because he had kind of developed the mural brochure and the mural program that was originally the idea behind the art in the developing art in commercial areas kind of idea. So he did express that he could kind of help out and start get it going, but he was the only person who was inclined to it at that time. Also, just keep in mind that when we were developing the work plan at that time, we were still again waiting on the Economic Development Commission to kind of take their steps as well. So I think it's wonderful that Member Abrams would like to be on it, and I think that we can. Bring another committee member when we have a full meeting, if anybody else is interested in it. And then on the other side, Member Abrams, staff liaison for the Arts Committee and the Economic Development Committee. Excuse me, my words are getting jumbled tonight. We will contact you outside about when these agendized meetings could start to begin.
Okay. Thank you.
Because again, just keep in mind that when they're agendized and they're filmed meetings, such as is this forum, we need to find a day of the week to do it and the proper technical support for it as well. But we want to get this on the list and we want to get them starting to at least discuss these meetings, which we will do so in the next month.
And just to be clear, my asking if there was anyone else wasn't anyone else instead of Member Abrams. It was someone along with Member Abrams. So.
But I did take it personally. Well, I think it's a valid question.
And generally with these, we would want a couple from the Arts Committee, right? Because we would want the voting to be if there were voting in a subcommittee, we want the voting to be as such to be balanced. But again, we will continue to discuss this, and Member Abrams, as I said, staff will contact you about the next steps for volunteering. Thank you.
And if staff could reach out to the members that aren't here as well, in case there's additional interest.
Yes.
Are there any other comments for, questions for 6.2 from committee members? Okay.
You know, Aaron, we didn't take a public comment on that either, just in case.
Right. Isn't it questions, public comments, and then final discussion?
Yeah. Thank you.
So if there's that was my cue. I stepped
I'm
right
sorry.
alongside it. If there's no other comments or questions rather from the committee, we can go to public comments. Public comments are for this item specifically on the Economic Development Subcommittee. If there are comments, we will give people 2 minutes for those comments. And are there any public comments?
Just give it one more second here. I do not see any public comments.
Okay, and then is there any final discussion from committee members? Okay, so we are going to move on to item 6.3. This is the Community Center Art Gallery. So Member Black, take it away.
I believe Liam sent us all a copy of the application and what the schedule is going to be for proceeding with getting people to apply for shows at the gallery. I hope everybody had a chance to look that over. If anybody has any comments about that. As the schedule is different this year because we lost 1.5 years and we are finishing up with the shows that we already had scheduled. So Linda Wang's show will go up, will have its opening on the 12th of December. Moon Jing will have her opening on March 20th. And then we will be choosing new shows in April. So the applications, the call for artists will go out January 12th, and it will be open till April 1st. And then the next meeting on April 12th, we will choose 6 artists as opposed to the normal 4, because we're working for 1.5 years. And then we will be on a regular schedule come the following September. So that's how it was set up, so that we can proceed as we normally do. That's the whole idea. So that's my report.
Great. Thank you, Member Black. Welcome, Member Goodman. Good to see you. It looks like you traveled back in time. You're in black and white.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry I'm late.
Good to have you.
When you had a quorum, I'd feel terrible if you didn't.
We would have gone home.
And had a glass of wine in your honor.
Yeah, I should have had one myself before I came in. Anyway, apologies.
Are there any questions from the Arts Committee regarding Member Black's report or the attached items to the agenda? If there are no questions, we can go to public comment. If there's any public comment, members of the public will have 2 minutes to comment regarding this agenda item specifically. Do we have any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay, and is there any final discussion from Arts Committee members?
I would just like to make a quick update. Cheryl, I have in my notes that since we need to capture 6 artists this time, we were just going to release this application, this call, after approval, just to at least have it out in the world. It's ready to go. Staff has approved, committee has approved. It's all to go. We can use our advertising routes at the Albany Community Center, e-news, social media, all those types. So with the Arts Committee's approval, we can just go ahead and do it now and save some time.
Works for me.
I was under the impression that we had already approved, no?
We had discussed it And I made some changes to it per our discussion. So this is the kind of final draft. So it is up for approval. If we could just do it again, please.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve it.
Is there a second?
Second,
Second. All right. Keenan, would you please take the vote?
Chair Getch,
Yes.
Member Abrams,
Yes.
Member Black,
yes,
Member Brigman,
Yes,
and Member Goodman.
You're muted.
I have to abstain. Sorry, I'm not up to, I didn't hear the conversation.
The motion passes. And we will move to item 6.4. Member Goodman, just so you know, your item, the Poet Laureate, was moved to the end. So it'll come after this item.
Understood, thank you.
Item 6.4 is the Albany Creative Justice Arts Project. So I will update, and I think Liam might also jump in here for a second. The good news is it was passed by City Council at the City Council meeting just a week ago. So we have City Council approval. We have funds allocated now for it. This is the call for artists and the proposal that we had previously passed as a committee. So congratulations, everybody. That is a step forward. So we have 3 things now moving forward, although still no ground broken there. It's just but it feels like progress. So maybe there's good things yet to come. We hope. The call for proposals, my understanding of the timeline, well, it's not quite a timeline, it's kind of next steps being worked out, is there will be some basic finalization on the call for proposals. Then it will go out into the world, and there will be a 90-day period from which we will begin receiving proposals. During that time, because the project threshold exceeds $10,000, it automatically triggers an external review or a panel review. So there will be another panel that will be selected to review the proposals that come in. And then once we have a proposal from the review panel, there will be a chance for committee members also, I think, to vote on it as well, correct? And then it will go back in front of City Council for final approval. And within that time period, there will also be a sort of public comment period as well. So we'll be soliciting public comment throughout that period as well. The good news about, in addition to it just moving forward, in addition to the conversations that we had in committee, there were many conversations that happened with staff and city attorneys, with the city attorney and with some of the council members also, regarding issues that we've spoken about many times within the committee, such as projects that can be included or not included, or the types of projects that can be included or not included. And everybody really came together. I think there was really great communication among lots of people involved to help make this project happen, and to provide the support and the funding to make it happen. So again, just congratulations to everybody. Liam, do you have anything to add to that report?
I would just like to really quickly follow up with this, the releasing the call for artists, the selection panel, And then the subsequent nomination from the selection panel is staff driven and does change a little bit dependent on kind of how you interpret the master plan. Not to say that it would be different from another call for artist. However, like Chair Gash mentioned, you know, whether you want to nominate people for the committee or for the selection panel or select or say these are the people on the selection panel, there can be voting members and non-voting members dependent on expertise levels. And then there is also in the master plan, again, pages 65 through 72 in the master plan kind of discuss the selection panel, but also appropriate uses of funds, as Chair Gatch mentioned, by utilizing Art and Public Places funds to either pay a master selection panel leader or to bring selection panel members in or to at least advertise the selection panel members. And staff needs to sort that out due to the funding reasons. And then also the advertising is that when the call for the artist does enter into the world, the Arts Committee has expressed a great desire for it to reach the people that it should for this item. And so we need to look at an advertising plan that utilizes digital outreach because of the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as built facilities in the city of Albany to have the applications at in case people don't have access to a computer. There is a lot to kind of work out through that. And as I did mention that this is a staff-driven aspect of it. Chair Gatch has been instrumental in getting this into council and getting this into staff's hands. So he will be included in that as well. However, we do want to meet with staff in-house and go over how we've done selection panels in the past, because the last time we did one was in, I believe 2014 or 2015 for the Albany Loop and the Creek Art Project. So we will want to make sure that, again, this call reaches everybody that it needs to reach in an equitable fashion. The city council just approved this last week, so we are still a little bit in the infancy stages of it. And as I said, Chair Gash will continue to be instrumental in making sure this happens, and will continue to update the Arts Committee as we move through it. And then just the last thing, just quick timing wise, as Chair Gash said, 90 days is how long we want the call to be out for equity purposes. After that, the selection panel will make a recommendation to the Arts Committee, and the Arts Committee can choose to take that recommendation. And then after that, there is a public review, out for 60 days, whether it's models in the community center or what that looks like as well. So there are some public process things we need to go through with this, and staff and the chair will update the committee as we move through them and what decisions we need to make.
Great, thank you, Liam. At this time, we'll go to questions. There's questions from committee members. And if there's no questions from committee members, we can go to public comment. Again, public has 2 minutes for comments. And again, this is comments specific to this agenda item.
And we do have a public comment. Keenan, are you ready with the timer? Okay. And oh, you might be on a different. Okay, and just 1 second here while I get the okay, Julie, you're ready to go. You can unmute yourself and ask your question, make your public comment.
Okay, thank you. You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I thought I was going to have 3 minutes, so I'll talk really fast.
It's okay. If you want 3 minutes, we can do 3 minutes.
Okay, well, I'll just say what I need to say, and hopefully it'll be fine. I would happen to be at the city council meeting because I'm the chair of CMAC, and I was presenting on our work plan. So I just happened to hear about this, which I think is a great idea. But I had a couple questions and concerns about it, and I brought one of them up at the meeting, and the chair answered my question, but I'm not ready to give up. I'm kind of a stubborn person, so I'm going to bring up the same issue again. And that was, I think that by the way, the wording of the qualifications, I think you've put in a sort of invisible barrier. And considering that it's a justice project, I think that you should have as few barriers as possible. So I think that saying things like evidence of professional achievement, and then when you apply that you should career highlights, parentheses, awards, important exhibits, list no more than 3 or 4. And I think those, and also expertise in one or more of those. I think that if you're trying to attract people, BIPOC people, and I also would encourage you to use BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, people of color versus people of color in your note. If you're trying to do that, I think that some of the wording can sound like they're only going to have professional artists. And if somebody maybe at the beginning of their career, especially if you think of the history of racism and oppression in our country, that you may have somebody who didn't have the same opportunities and so doesn't have maybe the track record you want them to have, but their art may be fantastic. So I feel like, why not be as open-minded as you can, because you can always decide whether you want that art or not. So I heard the answer from the chair about how this was working with the community and had all of these other things, but I think that the committee itself and the city could provide support. I also had a question about submitting everything online, as the rec person, I can't remember your name, I'm sorry, mentioned that when you're marketing this, when you're letting people know that there may be people who don't have access to the internet, so it's kind of contradictory, that you would make sure that you reach people in all ways possible. And I would encourage you to work with CMAC on that, because I think it's a great idea, but only digital submissions. Then you need to help people figure out how to do their digital submissions, maybe work with the library and encourage them to be a part of this, or work with CMAC. So those are my concerns. And also then the selection panel isn't really spelled out on there. And I know that the chair mentioned at the meeting that the selection panel would be a diverse group of people, but I think I would like to see it spelled out. I look at you and I see all your faces, and I'm seeing a lot of white people. So I would really like to know that the selection panel was going to be a diverse group who maybe come from diverse backgrounds, who understand what it's like to try to make it in the world. And I see I have a few seconds left. I just wanted to finish by saying, let's see, I think there was one more thing, trying to cover everything. I guess that's mainly it. But I just wanted to also say that it's pronounced Huichin, Huichin is pronounced Huichin, just because I think somebody mispronounced it at the beginning. All those words are hard because they're not pronounced the way they're looked. Anyway, those are my comments, and I really, really, really hope you'll take them to heart, all of them, including working with CMAC, because CMAC is very involved in trying to get word out to the community about a lot of different things and a lot of different avenues, just as was mentioned by the recreation management, whoever you are, whatever your name is, and I can't believe I already forgot your name, because all I can see is Rec Manj Anil right now.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so thank you.
I want to see if there's any other public comment before responding. Do we have any other public comment?
I do not see any other public comment at this time.
Okay, so we can go into a discussion. I'll start with a reply. First of all, thank you, Julie, for your comments. I think we're on the same page. I think we're very much in agreement, which is why this project was written and why so much work has gone into this project to begin with. I want to begin, for the sake of the committee members who may not have been at City Council, by just reiterating also what I said at City Council, which first and foremost, the work done on the proposal was vetted by several people, including BIPOC people, who are also arts professionals working amongst several institutions within the Bay Area, many of which are also actively involved with various communities, under the assumption that there is not just one thing that we call the community. So I think to your point about professionalism and asking for professional submissions and professional proposals, this does not in any way attempt to require something like a master's degree. It's not, it doesn't require that somebody has shown with SF moment. All we're asking for when we're asking for professionalism is the same thing that we would ask of any other contractors doing any other kind of serious work for a significant sum of money, that the person who is entering in can show a commitment and can show past work examples and can carry out this project successfully. In my experience as a professional artist and as an arts professor, I know many BIPOC individuals who are absolutely professional, some of whom have master's degrees and some of whom don't have master's degrees, but all of whom can point to a record of achievement and all of whom can point to past projects. So what we are trying to avoid by requiring people to be professionals is to suggest that this is not simply a sum of money being offered to someone who has a good idea but may not have the experience to execute it. Of course, this also does not exclude the possibility that that people will apply with whatever projects that they want to apply with, and of course, we will consider all proposals. I hope that answers your question. We are absolutely committed, both in the panel selection and in the project itself, to minimize any sort of barriers. And the panel selection, as I mentioned, also in the city council meeting, we're committed to a diverse panel that will be selecting the project as well. Are there, Member Goodman?
Who's coordinating the outreach and spreading the call out into various communities that you needed to go out to?
My understanding is that part of that is that falls under staff responsibilities. But as I've expressed to Liam, I'm also committed to making sure that call gets out and is on various lists that are, I think, that are accessible and available, and to doing some of the outreach as well. I think if we have a strong panel of jurors, that I think one of the responsibilities that we can ask of that panel in advance is also to help spread the word. And I think that panel selection can also help drive the proposals that we get.
And is there a specific budget for that kind of outreach, if advertising is required or mailings or stuff like that? And where's that money come from?
In the master plan, it says that that art and public places funds can be used in the selection process for soliciting proposals and for selecting a panel. So that means that panelists can receive a stipend, that there's potentially a budget. I don't know what that budget is, and that's a question that I've also asked staff, and staff will be having meetings in follow-up weeks to also determine what that looks like.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other discussion or comments from? Okay, then we'll move on to agenda item 6.1, which is the poet laureate.
Okay, thank you. Liam, do you have the draft of the call that I put up? Would you mind sharing that? So in the interim, I did write up a draft of the call that would go out to the community, similar to what Chair Gotcha is talking about, putting out a call for artists. This is a call to poets, and it's kind of it's a refinement of what went out several years ago, and when we last did this. Language has been tightened up a little bit, and then I also wanted to make sure that the committee is aware that I did try to incorporate a response to some of the issues that were brought up in our last meeting. Specifically, if you could scroll down just a tiny bit there, Liam, under what does a poet laureate do? Right there. Thank you. These are the obligations as discussed, and I added the thing about the poet joining in the Fall in a Haiku program, and also responding to the idea that there should be other programs or activities that perhaps are done in conjunction with other organizations or associations, and that might be dependent on additional funding or sponsorship, which is to say that the stipend that the poet receives is to cover the basic, say, 4 duties above, and then if there's anything additional, we may have to find out if there's additional funding to pay for that, and that would depend on the other people involved, the poet, him or herself, etc. So I wanted to make sure that that's there. Becca Black, who attended the last meeting, said that she would send us some information about what other cities are doing. I did hear from her, and she mentioned that the city of El Cerrito, our neighbor, has increased its stipend to $2,000 a year for 2 years. So that would be a total of $4,000. In my call here, I make mention of the fact that there is a stipend, but I've left the dollar amount blank because I really don't know what we can afford. And I don't know exactly where the money is going to come from. As we mentioned last time, in the last 2 years, the Albany Community Foundation has generously supported the program. But I'm reluctant to make the program entirely dependent on the Albany Community Foundation, certainly not without any kind of commitment from them on an annual basis. Right now, it's kind of ad hoc. We say we want the money, we write to them, they have a proposal. They seem very willing to go along with it, but that's not guaranteed. And I don't think that's the proper way to move this program going forward, to make it so dependent on a third party. So right now, I don't know where the money is going to come from, and I don't know how much the money is. I don't know how much money there's going to be. They've been talking about sponsorship, donations, etc. No work has been done on that. So unless I guess I feel that unless we have that part of this program figured out, that we should not send the call out, that we should really nail down that aspect of it, which is very, very important. Not simply for the current pope, but for the program itself. So that's kind of where that is where I am with that. Becca also was very strongly suggesting again that we talk to the library and develop poetry programs with the library. I think that's a good idea. I don't know that necessarily has anything to do with the Albany Poet Laureate program itself, but I think it'd be good for me to speak to the librarian and find out what their plans for for poetry in the library is. There certainly may be some way that we can coordinate our efforts, and some of it may actually fall back into the duties of the poet itself if the library is willing to make some sort of commitment to support poetry or even the Poet Laureate program itself. I don't know how that's going to be. Becca also said that, I guess she had talked to some other poets who do this sort of thing, and that in small cities, there's often the problem of not having qualified submissions, or not having someone that a selection panel feels comfortable in appointing, and then the prospect then is of simply going without until we find someone who's suitable for the position. And while that would be unfortunate, I think considering the size of the city, and we've already had 3 top poets in the city serve their tour of duty as poet laureate. I don't know, I personally don't know who else is out there. The call may discover that, bring people out of the woodwork, but we could be prepared, I think, for not having a poet laureate at all. Be that as it may, I do think that we should get the funding settled. One last aspect about funding is that continuing discussion is whether the city feels that poetry is appropriate or not for the Art in Public Places Fund. I take it is not. There was the idea floated last meeting of working the Poet Laureate program around a permanent presentation of digital poetry, and whether that might qualify as something concrete enough to satisfy the attorney and the other people who are going to be looking at the funding as appropriate or not. So that remains to be, that remains for further discussion too. And I don't know if we have to settle on that before the call goes out. If we are able to achieve funding independent of that, then that point is moot. If not, then we may have to rely on that and figure out some way of working with the city to make it possible. So that's where we are. I did want to ask, just as a point of procedure, if Liam, if you could scroll like roughly through the entire document so people can see how it's arranged. At the very end where it says to apply, it sort of indicates the things that people should submit. And do you all think that there should be a fill in the blanks kind of thing, the way that the artists apply for the gallery show, or is that not necessary? That's a specific question that could actually get a specific answer. So I'd appreciate if anyone has any thoughts on that. And that's a simple procedural layout. That was just a question about how what it should look like. The idea of funding and something is a little more thorny.
Liam, can you scroll up just slightly so we can see the list for the right there? Yeah, to apply.
So anyway, we can discuss this next month. Between now and then, I will talk to the librarian. I will also assemble some more information from other cities about what they're paying. So we really do have a better idea of what this position is generally valued at, as far as other cities are concerned. I don't think I'm going to make any progress on talking to the city about funding from the Art in Public Places plan, but perhaps I can generate some ideas about where sponsorship might come from, and maybe even talk to a couple places about whether they would be interested in providing sponsorship that attaches their name to it. We had a couple ideas last time. I think Robbie, member Abrams, brought up something about advertising that he felt that businesses might be willing to do that. And Chair Gotch, I think, mentioned possibility of having some kind of sponsorship lottery where people were being bid on it. As far as things go, it's not a super expensive program, but I'd sort of like to have continuity year to year and some certainty that funding is in place.
Peter, have you talked to the Albany Foundation about whether they're willing to do this yearly?
Well, I mean, I have in general terms. I haven't formally asked them. They've always said that they're willing to do it. I know they like the program. They think it's good for the city. So my presumption is that they would.
Could we
and
get
so-
a guarantee from them for a certain amount, do you think?
Well, I guess I could ask them. I guess part of me feels like the program shouldn't have to rely on that on their charity. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe that's perfectly okay. I
It
feel
seems-
like
Since
program-
they're willing to do it, it seems to me that if we could get somewhat of a guarantee from them, and then if we need to supplement that with more, then at least we have a base where we're beginning.
Yeah, I could do that. What does everyone else think about it? I could certainly contact them and ask them for maybe a 2-year commitment, for example, that would get us through. But
should-
before,
just to-
excuse me, Chair God, before doing that, I'd like to have an idea of what the amount is involved. And further, if we want to do other programs, I can't go running back to them to say, well, I need more money, that sort of thing.
Just to keep us on track, we should start with questions, then go to public comment, and then we can have a broader
okay.
discussion.
Sorry.
Sorry.
So if there's other specific questions for Member Goodman, we can kind of field the questions first, or if you have points of discussion, you can frame them as questions. And if there's no other questions from the committee at this time, we'll go to public comment. And I'm seeing no public comment. Okay, so now we're in discussion. Wow, that was easy. So now we can go crazy. We can just cut loose with the discussion here.
Yeah. Use revision tracking, please.
From my point of view, if there's money available that someone is making available to support the arts, I'm a fan of taking it and putting it in the hands of artists or poets. So if the Albany Community Foundation is generous in their support for a poet laureate, that seems pretty expeditious based on getting things done and making something like this happen. However, I also understand your concern about wanting to make sure that it's sustainable and that there's some longevity. So maybe as a possibility, in the short term, seek funds from the Albany Community Foundation, and during that time, during that first 2-year period, put something in front of City Council to support it longer term with some funds outside of the Art and Public Places Fund, if that's not, if that doesn't allow us to use the funds in that capacity.
Chair Gotch, I will also point out that the Community Foundation is currently funding the Fall into Haiku program as well, which runs about between $800 and $900 a year. So this would be in addition to that. And I don't know what their restrictions are as far as how much money to give to a particular group, within 1 year, if they have any at all.
I think it's fair to have that, to sort of broach that conversation.
I will do that.
And then if they're not comfortable, they can say.
How much
Okay.
were we paying Becca?
Pardon?
How much were we?
$750 a year.
$750 a year.
And previous to
we-
that, they weren't getting anything.
Right, that's what I remember, is that they weren't getting anything up to that point.
I have a quick thought, which is if we go to the community at large for more sources of donations to pay the poet laureate, I think that might be a way to get more community involvement. There might be people out there, private citizens and businesses that just want to be involved and don't know how. And this is a way that we can say, this is how you can be involved in your community and your city government and so on. So maybe we can use it in that direction.
Good thought. So what do you think would be a good mechanism for doing that?
Um, how to get the word out. Maybe just, if we have a page on Nextdoor and Facebook or whatever, plus people who are on the mailing list for the city, for city notices. If there's a city mailer, I don't know. I know that I used to get something from the community center, a quarterly thing with their classes. And if that were to come out again, then that would be a great item for that as well, maybe.
Are there any of these social media platforms that are used for that, that anyone knows of? I can't see myself doing a TikTok video exactly.
But, since I'm considering ditching Facebook altogether for various reasons, I do think that there are other ways to alert people, through the web, using other platforms like Nextdoor, or maybe even some of the event things, Eventbrite, or maybe, I don't know, we're Albany, so Berkeley side wouldn't want to write about it, but there's got to be things like that.
Yeah. So question back to Liam then, to what extent, Liam, is the city able to, is the city willing to help fundraise, like put a note in their e-bulletin, say that the Poet Laureate program is looking for donors, or to use its own offices to put the word out and try and generate money, or is that something the city is not comfortable doing?
I will have to get back to the committee on that. I'm not prepared to answer that question right now, but I will certainly find out, and I'm more than happy to do so. The other just quickly to mention, while I was asked a question, is Becca Black also mentioned that the Albany Library has a funding source as well, a group that helps with community programs. So that is a place to look into as well.
I will talk to the librarian between now and the next meeting and see where they are.
I just want to say, I think ultimately it makes sense that the Poet Laureate is funded by the city in the long term. But I think given the current understanding and interpretation of the arts ordinance, we're restricted from using art and public places funds to do that. So it would require, putting a proposal in front of city council to allocate those funds. But I think that's a worthwhile pursuit to have the city fund its own Poet Laureate.
Well, I agree, and actually maybe that's not a bad strategy, is it? At least to as a way of bringing the matter before the council and showing that there's a need for it, and perhaps getting council involved and thinking about how the city could make it happen.
I think it's an excellent idea, but the city is notoriously slow. So if we want to keep this going, I think we need to find another, at least for the next 2 years, approach.
Yeah, that could be true. And like I say, I'd like to get the next 2 years sorted out money-wise before we put the call out.
So maybe the Albany Community Foundation would be the way to go expediently.
I will talk to them and see where they are and bring you back results in November.
I think just one more thing in terms of putting the word out, one of the challenges in terms of requiring the Poet Laureate be a resident of the city is that you're trying to put the word out within a defined geographic region, but also trying to find poets specifically. And those are kind of two different target audiences that kind of overlap, right? There's a sort of Venn diagram there. So definitely pursuing all of the avenues for local communication, like Nextdoor, and if there are Facebook groups, or I don't even know if the city has like an Instagram account, but I think also flyering along corridors that are high traffic areas, and certainly putting the word out to high school students as well within the high schools, if there's the possibility that we have some talented poets. I don't know if there's an age limitation around poet laureates, but that may also help to spread the word.
I guess a poet under 18 would have to get their parents' permission. Right.
Absolutely.
I don't know. Do you need parental permission to be a poet laureate? Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, really. Dangerous job.
It's also, it's also possible that there's a connection to the UC where there might be also some poetry community attached to the UC with some participants residing in Albany.
Yeah, possibly.
University Village.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are short-term housing, but there could certainly be people there who are there for more than 2 years, 2 years or more.
All right. Well, are there any other discussion comments?
Any thoughts on the format of the application? Do you think I need to put lines in, or no?
How many in the past? How many applications have you received?
Oh, very few. 3 to 4, between 3 and 5, I think, depending on what it was.
Then the formatting is probably not
Not so-
necessary. I think the
Yeah.
formatting is useful when you're trying to compare apples to apples from multiple applications, but based on what you have in terms of applying, it sounds like people can put together their materials and send them, and
Yeah, okay.
you'd be able to review it.
All right. I'll leave it as is then.
Any other discussion comments for this agenda item? Okay, I think we can stop the screen share then. And that concludes our possible action items. We're now on to agenda item number 7, which is future agenda items. Does anyone have any future agenda items?
The sculpture loan.
There we go. That was your cue. I was waiting.
I got it.
I've even forgotten about that.
Never.
Concrete pads is all that comes to mind.
Oh, yes, really, concrete pads.
Any other future agenda items?
Like I say, in November, I'll bring back the poet laureate.
Okay, and I'll be meeting, I think, with staff to talk about the Albany Creative Justice Project, but I'll wait to see what we have before putting that on the agenda. Member Abrams?
Yeah, just a quick thought. There's a few things on the 2-year plan that we may have forgotten about. I think there's the sculpture down at the bulb that needs to be repaired or removed or replaced and things like that.
Right.
So those items, maybe we can figure out who's working on those and things like that.
I agree.
Just really quickly, point of clarity, and this can come from anybody in the committee, but is that something that we would want to review the work plan and kind of see where we stationed within that, or do we want to pull out those things individually and work through them in the coming months? Staff is happy to facilitate either way.
I'm fairly new to this as well. I mean, I'm a year in. I have a year under my belt now, and the sense that I get is that things are going to get done if people spearhead them, and that we should focus on the tasks that we're spearheading, and try and and try and cross those off the list first, and then kind of work through the work plan accordingly. I don't have that list in front of me. I know we assigned names at one previous meeting, but you know, in terms of projects that people wanted to work on. But my recommendation would be for people to bring the projects to committee that they're most passionate about working on and seeing through.
Yeah, what I was thinking is that we do have, although she's not here tonight, we have a new committee member who may not have any of these assignments. And then we had member Richards, who left the committee, who had assignments that have now, of course, obviously are not being done by her. So I just thought we would revisit it, but I don't think it's urgent.
Can we do like an agenda item to review the work plan, or is that something that we would do now? How does that, what's the best way to?
I don't believe we could do it now because it's not agendized, so we can't discuss. However, that's just something else. Yeah, I can certainly follow up with procedures and get back to us on how exactly that looks. If we do want to discuss sculpture loan and poet laureate, and you know, hopefully we have some traction on the next steps for the Albany Creative Justice Art Project. Again, I think we're going to start getting into action and things to do and things to advertise and promote. We also are kind of done with the gallery, but we can help promote those because we want to receive applications for those as well. So let me get back to the committee on what that kind of looks like and to revisit the work plan. But I think it's always within, you know, your control and a good idea to keep looking back at the work plan and what we're kind of working on, because that is that's the control to which council uses for kind of our successes.
And just as a reminder, I think anyone can bring any of those items up for agenda for discussion to work on. All right. Any other additions to future agenda items? Okay. Our next meeting is Monday, November 8th. So that means, thank you, everyone, and we are adjourned.
I have a request. Hey, Liam, would you save your live transcript and send it to me so I can see what I missed the first 15 minutes?
Yes, absolutely. And it's on YouTube as well. So I can send you that link if you'd like to watch it.
Oh, you mean it's live already?
Well, I think, you know, I don't know a ton about the technical and digital process of this, but it is currently live on YouTube. And then when it's ended, it kind of consolidates and then is released as a video. So maybe not ASAP, but certainly in the next hour or so, I think you can just go.
All right. Well,
and it's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube already.
Correct.
Okay, then I'll just catch it there then.
Peter, I made an announcement that on Sunday, on the 17th, we're having a Meet the Artist at the gallery from 3 to 5.
Okay.
Coming Sunday. So
right.
If you have a chance.
Okay, thank you.
And Robbie, did you have something at the end there? Okay. All right, so now are we adjourned?
Before 8:30, well done.
All right, good job, everyone.